My lecture today is going to be about a lot of design stuff, but I hope this will be useful for everyone who is here, even if they just work with designers. So, first a little bit about me. I have a very, very long experience being a graphic designer. I started somewhere before year 2000, so I've seen a lot of stuff that is even that doesn't even exist today, including computers without internet. I have worked on various projects. Some of them were visual identity, some of them were graphic design, a lot of websites and user interfaces. And about 15 years ago, I created my own company, which is a graphic design studio, because I wanted to have more direct contact with clients. Because as a designer, you usually go through a big flow, a lot of steps between you and the client. You have project managers, art directors, key accounts, etc. So I wanted to have more direct contact with clients. So that's how I started my own studio. And recently, in the last couple of years, I have tried to put more focus on my academic career. So now I'm a lecturer in New Bulgarian University, where I teach a lot of graphic design topics. So these are some of the projects that I'm most proud of. Some of them are media related, some of them are business things, and some of them are completely out of everything that is currently happening. For example, this was a font revival. This was a font which was created somewhere in the first half of the 20th century, and I created a digital version of it. So, this is what I do. However, what I really like to do is ride my bicycle. So, this is my big hobby, and this is something which I'm doing for the last 10 years probably. Here are some photos. For example, the first one is from the roundabout of Vitosha, which is 100 kilometers, and you go around Vitosha. It's a very nice event, and I hope a lot of people will try it, because it's really there's a really good feeling in it. And the one on the right is another roundabout, this time of island of Tassos in Greece. Again, a very nice event. So yeah, I like a lot of riding, and riding a bicycle and owning a bicycle these days is a lot like having being part of an ecosystem. You have a lot of different hardware to take care of, very expensive parts. There are different applications that you have to take care of, and you have to track everything, and you have to remember to charge all the stuff that is around your bike. So it's really complicated stuff. And these are some of the apps that I have been using through the last couple of years. There are many different apps that are related to sports and health and wellness. So all of them have their good sides and their bad sides. And some of them don't exist even today. Some of them are very popular. And 3 years ago, I was approached by a British company which creates a very interesting kind of equipment. It's called Wattbike. Wattbike. It's like not like what and where, but what. So what is the most important metric when we are talking about cycling? All the energy that you put in your legs when you're spinning the pedals is measured in watts. So I don't know if you see this well, but this is how the Wattbike looks. This is like a stationary bike, and it's very advanced. It has a lot of metrics, a lot of electronics inside, and this is part of their brand book. So it was a really interesting project because the design was very minimal and interesting and direct. So yeah, when this happened, I was very, very happy because this was like a dream come true. Because I ride bicycles and I had the opportunity to work on the design of this app that is called Wattbike Hub. So here are some of the screens that I created for the application. It's a really complex thing. We had to develop very different scenarios for how people are going to use the bike. For example, one of the modes of this bike. Sorry, can I go back? Yeah. One of the modes of this bike is to simulate that you're riding on a hill and you're going up. So this was a visualization of how the hill looks and you're going up on it. Another way was to see how well you're spinning the pedals. Is it a good movement or you're lacking a bit? You're going a bit slow. There were many different screens. And it was a very interesting experience because we were working very closely with developers. And this was a nice project with a lot of good experience. Another interesting project that I had the opportunity to work on was called WeRide. Again, this is a cycling app, you can say. But the good thing about it is that it's related to how you use your bike when you go to work or when you ride around the city. This is like a commuting app. It's again a very interesting concept because you can do a lot of things with this app. For example, you can track how you ride, how long you ride, how fast. You can see what's the quality of the air, because this is something important when you're outside. You want to know how fresh is the air that you're breathing. And you can also see the weather forecast inside, because you want to know how good you should be, what quotes you should take when you go outside. And also there is this function that you can warn the other cyclists about dangers and interesting things that happen when you ride. For example, if I go outside and I see a pothole, I can add this to the map, and the next person who uses the app will see that it's there. It's a bit like Waze, but for bicycles. And this is interesting, but the more interesting part was that this thing is also has a site which goes to the municipality, to the authorities, so they can see how the people are riding around the city. They can see which are the most used bike lanes, where are the problems, when people ride their bikes the most, so things like this. Again, a very interesting project. So, this is my experience, and this is my point of view when I show you the next couple of ideas about how you should be doing sport apps. Okay? I've selected 4 things, 4 big points that I want to talk about. The first one is how we show numbers and numerical information inside our sport apps. The second one is how we are using charts and how do we visualize data inside the apps. The third one is what's possible and what's not possible, and what are the challenges when we are using smartphones for our sport apps. And finally, I'll try to make a bit of prediction and see how the things are going, what will be the trends in all this thing. So first, how are we going to use numbers inside our sport app? It's important to understand that this is really the most crucial thing that you have in your app. When you're talking about sports, when you're talking about training, when you're talking about tracking your activities, using numbers is the most important thing inside your app. It's not the icons, it's not your profile, it's not how responsive or anything it is. It's about numbers. So you should be really careful about using numbers. And here are some ideas about that. First, you should have very high contrast in your numbers. You should never use numbers which are hard to see, which are used on a background which is not good enough to be easy to see. You should always look for the easiest way to show your numbers. They should be big and easy to see, all right? Another thing that you should be considering is using monospaced fonts. Do you know what monospaced font is? Right, so usually when we have different characters, they vary in their width. For example, number 1 is very thin, but number 5 is bigger. But instead, we are going to use monospaced fonts, similar to what we have on typewriters. They should have the same width. Why? Because it makes the numbers not jump. Because otherwise, every time you change the numbers, they will change the width of the box where they are. So using monospaced fonts makes it very easy for the users to see. They learn, for example, that the decimal points will always be there. And it's very easy to see which is the big number and which is the decimal part. Another thing, always show some metric, some unit. If you say you have 16 more to go, this is not enough. What's 16? Is it kilometers? Is it calories? Is it something else? You should always have some kind of unit inside. Okay? If you have icons, they should be accompanying some text. Never use just icons, because again, this is not clear enough. You want to be very, very clear about numbers. Some other points to consider. Numbers vary in width. For example, if we are talking about distance, if it's a cycling or running cup, the distance will become bigger and bigger. And you should have an idea how to manage the different width of the numbers. You should have some kind of algorithm behind it that, for example, makes the numbers smaller when it's not possible to fit inside the box. You should not cut it, for example. You should not make some of the numbers hidden if they get outside the box. Another thing that you should consider is that in this day, people are very used to having many different metrics to follow. So you should have some way to show alternative views. For example, switch between kilometers and miles, switch between the distance that has passed and the distance that remains. Things like this, you should be able to show very many different numbers. And again, you should have some way to start rounding the number when it becomes too big. For example, when the ride starts and you have if you write, for example, 100 meters, you want to show 100 meters. But if you write 16 kilometers, you don't want to show the hundreds anymore, right? You just want to show 16.1. So this way, you should again have some kind of process on how you round the number when it becomes bigger and bigger. Okay? And again, if this is part of a workout which is pre-planned, it's good to have a way to show what's remaining, not just what has passed already. Because, for example, if it's a run and you know that you have to run for 10 kilometers, you want to know how many more are remaining, because this gives you a good emotion that that number becomes less and less. Okay? Here are some examples. You probably know some of these products. See how easy it is to see the numbers. This is the most important thing here. You can show things like this. These are lap times, the distances that have been passed. But you should always have a very good contrast on all the numbers that you show. You should never use small numbers for something that's important. Okay, so yeah, let's talk a bit about charts. Sometimes it's good to use charts instead of numbers because they look better, right? But always keep it simple, because when people are working out, when they are running or they're lifting weights or they're riding their bikes, they don't have a lot of mental capacity. They cannot understand very complex visualizations. That's why you want to have very simple graphics. You don't want to go over the top with the graphics. Another thing that you have to keep in mind is that sometimes you will not have data. Sometimes things will happen. For example, if you're measuring heart rate, the monitor can, the battery of the monitor can go out, and then you will lose this metric. And you will have to be prepared for that, that you will have missing numbers, bad connection, dying batteries, things like this, and the data that you are going to show as chart should be possible, even with some missing parts. Something that, again, as designers, you should be considering is that when you draw something, it has to be made after that by developers. They have to code this thing. So it's important to discuss your ideas as a designer with the developers that are going to be creating these things, because something can look very simple for you as a designer, but it can be very, very hard to be done when the development phase comes. Okay? And I think this is self-explanatory, but when you make nice graphics, for example, if you show the track that has been that you have run, it's a good idea to make this shareable, because people like to show off. They like to boast about how long they have been running or how fast they have ridden their bike. So if you show graphics, make them shareable. Make them easy to share as an Instagram story or Facebook post, things like this. And again, from there, you can go to gamification. You can start measuring the different graphs of different people, and they will start to compete with each other, and then you have Facebook. So yeah. Unfortunately, using touchscreen in sport apps is the worst possible idea. But we have to know this and see how we can work around it. It's terrible user experience, because phones are not good for using while you're doing sports. First, people are focused on their sport, on their activity. They are not looking at your screen. They have very, very little focus left for looking at their screens. So you need to keep it simple. You cannot show small numbers. You cannot show too many numbers on their screen. You have to be very, very concise in what you show. Second, touchscreens don't work really well with liquids, right? And this is something that happened with the new generation of screens, similar to what we have on our smartphones. Before that, touchscreens were using pressure instead of touch like it is now. So it was much harder to make misclick. Now it's very easy. For example, if this happened on my watt bike, this was a real problem. When you lean over the bike and lean over the tablet that is working there, if a drop of sweat drops on the screen, it creates a touch. And if that happens to be the stop button, for example, you have a problem. So you have to think about how you should go around this. Again, another example, this is a bit more shocking. A distant friend of mine had a minor crash with her car. And there was blood, unfortunately. And when she tried to use her iPhone, it was not working, right? Because she was smearing liquid on the screen, and this is how she went back to phones with buttons. This happens with different kinds of liquids, of course. This happens when you have rain, when it's wet, when it's snowing. And speaking of snow, this is another problem. Smartphones don't work very well with gloves, right? It's very hard to use your phone when you're skiing, for example. It's a small nightmare, and it's possible to lose your phone or lose your glove. So this is the problem. And another problem is that most of the time, people have their phones in their pockets. And it's impossible to use your phone when it's in your pocket because you don't know what you're pushing, right? That's why the latest iPhone has a new hardware button, because this is a very big problem, and this is similar to what happens in cars, for example. A lot of cars now have touch screens, and again, this is a big problem because you have to look at your screen to see where you're touching. But if it's a hardware button, it's easy to understand where is your hardware button because you can feel it, right? So how do we work around this stuff? First of all, I think this is a really good example to see a good interface for touch screens. This is how ATMs work. They always have the buttons at the same places. This way, people have at least the feeling that this is more stable and more consistent and easier to use. So when you have stop, play, change view, track buttons like this, try to keep them in the same place all the time. Okay? Second thing, this is a recommendation by Jacob Newson. It says that every button should be at least 1 centimeter big. I think this is too little. I think they should be even bigger than that. So when you create your buttons, make sure they are at least 1.5 centimeters in size, in dimensions, right? The third thing, always add some kind of confirmation for all the dangerous actions that can happen. For example, when the workout is finished and you want to stop it, always add a second confirmation on that stop. Never make it easy to just have the whole workout deleted by incidental press. Right? So you should always have some kind of confirmation. One possible way is to have a second tap, right? You click once to stop, and then you click again to confirm. Another way to do is by holding. You have to hold at least 3 or 5 seconds before this action is confirmed. And finally, use additional feedback of some way, not just what's happening on the screen, but some kind of sound or some kind of vibration or a voice. This way, you can use the screen even without looking at it. And you will know that your action has been accepted and confirmed. There are a lot of free libraries for good sound effects. Facebook, by the way, their design labs created such library with a lot of sounds inside that you can use freely. So yeah, these are some of the ideas about how to go around the limitations of smartphones. And finally, even though the current state is not very, very bright, we have a lot of problems to take care of, I think that generally we have a very, very bright future ahead of us. Because what is happening in the health and wellness industry, where the devices are made, is very good. Just in contrast, all our smartphones have not evolved a lot in the last 10 years. All our smartphones look like this, right? They're all the same. But yeah, in sport equipment, there is a lot of innovation. A lot of very different approaches happen. A lot of very interesting and innovative products appear. I don't know if you have seen this. This is a ring that tracks your blood pressure and your sleep patterns. And it's completely easy it's easy to forget that it's on your finger. The second one is simulated riding. You're riding in your home, and you see an online game, and you're part of it, and you're riding, for example, in New York. And this is happening from your room, and some of the biggest cyclists at the moment are taken from this game. The trainers are keeping track of what's happening in the game, who has the best times, and some of these people are then invited in real cycling teams. Okay? And the last one is, you probably know that this is a health band called Whoop. It's different from smartwatches because it doesn't have any screen. It's just a plastic textile band that you have on your hand, and they again have a bra version of that. So you can completely forget that you have this, and it's very easy to track your physical activity with that. So there is a lot of room for experiments. There is a lot of room for innovation in the field of health apps. Okay? This is another trend that we have to be aware of. All the apps, all the sport apps are constantly getting simpler and simpler. Their interfaces become less complex with each day. I think this started with the approach to user interface that Google is making. Their material guidelines, this is a site that you should probably know, material.io. They have these guidelines about how mobile apps should be made. And you know how the new versions of Android, they become much easier to read from distance, much less crowded, with rounded corners, bright colors, so it's easier for kids to use them. And again, easier for elders to use them, easier for people with disabilities. So this is the big trend. We want to have as many users as possible in our apps. So we should make them simpler. We should make them easy to read and easy to understand by people who don't have knowledge, all right? And this is similar, I think this is related, but we have big screens on our phones, but we also have smartwatches, and smartwatches have very, very small screens. So we have to create now designs which should be adaptable to screens which are 5 centimeters in diameter. So keep it simple. And finally, this is a big problem for all the governments that people have become obese, and this is getting worse with every year. So governments are very strongly motivated to invest in sport apps, in sport activities and bike lanes and public classes in different sports. So we have the governments on our side when we create sport apps. This is important to understand. And this is, again, part of the problem is the health of the nation, and the other part is that they have to fight the traffic. All the municipalities have to see alternative ways to make it easy to commute around the town, right? So cycling apps, scooter apps, things like this will become more and more common. So yeah, I think things are looking very good for the future. And that's it. Thank you.